welcome back. I'll be continuing to work with the Gatsby blog. So right now the focus is to improve the looks of the blog, because even though there's a lot of functionality going on behind the hood, it's not really close to looking like a real blog. So I think that we want to improve the actual stylings of the blog. So one thing that I've decided is that I will not use Bootstrap for the actual looks and the components. So I will go with my own custom components. So one thing that I want to do is I want to replicate a layout which I found online. So I will show you what that looks like. So this is a blog layout which I find to be quite neat, and it won't look just like it, but it will be quite close to this. And I think it's a pretty nice blog layout. So I will use this as a go-to mockup, so to say. So one thing we want to do is we want to remove the dependencies of Bootstrap. I won't remove the packages, but I just want to stop using the actual Bootstrap styling because it will collide with our styles. So one thing I'll do is I will go to the layout.js. Here I don't want to have the container, so I will remove the container for now. What I do want is a navbar, so I will add a React fragment. For those of you who don't know what this is, I will show you what it is in a minute. So I want to have my navbar here. I haven't imported it yet, but one thing I want to show you is that this is a basic thing in React. React doesn't allow you to have adjacent elements like this. So this is considered to be two adjacent elements, and it's not allowed in React. So that's why I add this fragment. Before you used to have react.fragment, and now you can simply have it like this. And the reason why I add this empty tag, so to say, is because sometimes you don't want to have a div because it will mess up with your styling, or maybe it's just not something you just don't want a div, but you still want to get rid of this problem, so you can have adjacent elements like this instead. So if I save it and I go back, of course we will get the error that says navbar is not defined. So let me just add this navbar component. I will start using folders inside of the component folder, because one thing I need to use is what's called CSS modules. I will go into what that means too in a moment. I want to create a simple React functional component like this. I'll just say navbar for now, and I have to import it here. So import navbar from, and I have to go out. No, I just need to go into my navbar folder and here like that. And now we shouldn't be getting any errors anymore, and we got the success, which is great. And now I want to introduce what's called CSS modules. So what it actually is basically a way to solve the problem of global CSS classes. You probably know that the main issue with CSS is the fact that it's global. It can also be an advantage if you want to use global styling, but in many cases you want to have scoped styling, so you only want to have classes which won't affect anything outside of this component. You want to be 100% sure that when you add a class here, it won't collide with a style that you add in another component. So you basically want to have as specific styles as possible, and one way to solve it is by using CSS modules, because what it does is that it provides unique CSS classes. so you can be sure that it won't collide with anything else outside of this component. So in order to add that, I need to install a plugin. So I will kill this server and open up a new terminal, and I will write npm I, which stands for install Sass, because I want to use Sass. I find it to be more, it's simpler to use it, and it provides a lot of functionality which you don't have in native CSS. And I also want to have the Gatsby-plugin-Sass package. So these two npm packages, I want them both. So I will run this and install the packages. And now it's finished. So what I want to do is I need to add the plugin to the Gatsby-config file. So here we have the plugins array. So I have this plugin, and under it I want to add a new plugin with backticks like this, and Gatsby-plugin-Sass, and I'll end it with a comma sign, just so I don't forget it when I add a new plugin. And one thing I also want to do is I want to remove the Bootstrap minified file, because right now it will conflict with my other files. So I'll just find it here and I'll remove it completely. So like this, and I'll go back and I will run the develop script, which will spin up my dev server. So now the dev server is working, so I can click on this and it will bring me to the actual site. And we also see the nav bar, which is great because this is where we will work with the nav bar, and it should look like this. So it will be transparent for now, and I will add some functionality. I think I will make it like this, so it will be white for now, just so we can have it as a fixed nav bar. So let's work with that. So in the nav bar component right here, I want to have a CSS file, which I will point to. So import styles from navbar.module.scss, and this should break everything, and it does, which is great because now I can add the actual file. So navbar.module.scss, and hopefully the dev bundle will work. Yes, it does. So now we're not getting a fail when it's built, because it recognized the file. So I can write navbar.navbar, create this class, and for now let's just have a background color of light gray, just so we can see something. And I also need to use it because it says that the styles object is not used. So basically the way it works is that you get an object, and every property, it will have a property with the name of this class name. So if I want to apply this style, which will be a unique class name, I basically type class name, and here I open up the curly brackets and I write styles.navbar. And if I save it and go back, we should see it being applied, and we do. So now we see that we have the style applied, and if I also inspect it, we should see a unique class name, which is quite hard to read actually. So you see that it has some weird characters, which is unique, so it will never collide with anything else in the document, which is awesome for us. So now let's, I don't know if you saw it, but we see that we have some margin and maybe even some padding, and those are styles that are by default, so to say. So we want to reset all of that, and we can do it in the, actually I can create an index.js. Maybe here I can, or maybe in the layout. I think in the layout is the best place. So in the CSS file here, I already have a global selector, and I will extend it with these ones, and I will type margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing should be set to border box. And for those of you who don't know what this means, it's a quite complex thing to understand. In the beginning, I didn't know what it meant, but it's basically that your width should take into consideration the padding too. So it basically helps out with widths and stuff of that nature. So it doesn't exclude the padding in the width. So for now we see that the margin is gone, which is awesome. We want to have some padding. So let's go back to the navbar CSS file, and I will add some padding, maybe like 25 pixels, something like that. Let's go back. This is okay, I think. So what I want is I want to have my own name here, and I want to have a menu with items to the right. So one way to achieve this is to go back to the navbar.js, and here I will have a span with the class logo name, and this will be my name, like this. And I also want to have a UL, an unordered list, with the class name of let's say menu list. And I also want to have 4 LIs, and they don't need to have a class name. I think like this, yes. So now I can write home, about me, blog posts, contact me. And if we go back, we see this. Doesn't look pretty at the moment, but we're getting closer. So I'll open this next to it so we can see both at the same time. So first of all, I need to apply flex to this one. So display flex. And if we go back, we see that now they're next to each other, which is good. And I also want to apply flex 1 to both of the elements. So flex 1 to the logo name, and the same goes for the menu list, flex 1, which basically means that they will, okay, this didn't work. Of course it didn't work because I didn't really apply it the CSS modules way, so to say. So it should be logo name and not just a text like that, not just a string like that. So menu list. Don't forget that it's case sensitive. So now it's working. So basically what I did was that I gave each element an equal amount of width. So now this is looking good to me. So now I want to work with this part. So I want to use flex here so the items are next to each other. So in the menu lists, I will apply flex on that one too. And if we go back, we see that now they're next to each other, which is good. I also want to remove the bullets, so list style none. We go back. Now we see that they don't have the bullets anymore. I want to add some padding or margin, actually. So to the LI, I will have a margin of maybe 5 pixels. I think they're too close, maybe 10. And I also want to add the Gatsby link to each one of these. So actually I can do it right now. So link. Okay, I think this was not a good idea. I can just add it here. And this one should have point to the slash URL, which is basically the home page. This will be about. This will be blog, and this is actually an existing page, so it already exists. About and contact they don't exist at the moment, and we'll see what happens when I try to click on one of those. Of course, the link is not defined, so I have to import it. So import link from, I think it's like this actually, it's a named export, so link from the Gatsby package, from Gatsby, like this. And now they are links, which is good. This is what happens. We get this development for a page, and we don't have a custom for a page, but we'll add one quite soon. And they say that if we want to add one, we simply just add a 404.js file which contains a React component in this directory. So we'll do this quite soon. So for now, if I click on this, I get the blog post just as before. Nothing new about that. And the same goes for contact me. So one thing I don't like about this at the moment is that it has the text decoration. So I want to remove that. So here in the li, I will say a. So the anchor elements should have a text decoration of none. And now it's gone, but still the color is the default link color. So I want to make it inherit from the parents, basically. So now it looks better. I don't know if you see it, but these are not aligned correctly. So I will add the align items baseline. And what it does is that they will basically, you saw that this one jumped down now, so now it's actually adjacent with the other. They're at the same row, so to say. And this looks much better. And what else can I do? So I think I'm quite happy with the nav bar as it is at the moment. I think that I want this to be fixed, so I have to add the fixed positioning to it with the top of 0 and left 0. And of course this will mess up the layout, because now, yeah, as expected, this messed everything up. I also want to have the width of 100%, because apparently it wasn't. And now what I meant about messing up the layout is that, of course, this will now no longer look pretty. So I have to fix the actual in the layout. I think I need to have a container here. So div class name styles dot container div, and now maybe I can just use the page container like this, and I can add it in the layout.css. And I'll just have to remember to not use the page container. So margin top, I don't really know how the height of this nav bar, so let me just look it up. So it's around 92, so I'll say maybe 100 would be good, 100 pixels. Hopefully now it will look better, hopefully. It doesn't. So maybe this is because I'm not applying the layout at the moment. The index, yeah, yes I am. Okay, so the problem was that I didn't save the file. So now that I saved it, it fixed the problem. And if I go to the blog posts, okay, right now, I think that maybe these don't have the layout applied to them either. I'll fix that later on, but for now, it's working at least. So we're focusing on the homepage right now. So what can I do to fix this homepage? So one thing that we're noticing is that we're using, I want to have this image. So I want to have like a hero element with a background image like this. So one way to fix it is to have a hero element basically. So let's go back to the index.js. This is our homepage. So right now we have this link to my blog. We don't want none of that. So we just want the title and the description, but we want them to be inside of a hero div. So let me just move these inside a div like that. And I also want to have the styles.module, the styles.hero, and I don't have a module file for this yet. So from home.module.scss, this will probably fail because we don't have the file yet. Yes, so now we'll simply add a file called home.module.scss, and here I will have the hero with 100%, and the height should be, I think, 50 VH. And if you go back, we see that something is happening here, so this is good. But what I want is I want to use this image as the background image. So I no longer need to use this image this way. I can just remove this image actually. And in the home.module.scss, I want to point to the actual image. So one way to use an image and also have, so to say, some type of transparency is to use what's called the linear gradient. So to write transparent and gray for now. And then I want to have the URL, which will point to the actual image. So like this, we'll go to images, code screen, like that. And if I save it, let's just look at it now. Okay, so it's not showing anything at the moment. It's just showing this adjacent. Okay, so it's actually showing it. It just took some time. But one thing is that it doesn't look very pretty because we have this space. So I think I actually want to remove some of the margin in the layout.css. I want to have 90 actually. And now it looks better, but we see that the image is like zoomed in, and we don't want that behavior. So in the home.module.scss, I want to add what's called background size cover, and also background position of center. And this will actually focus on the center of the image, and it looks much prettier now. So we actually see the image, which is much better, I think. And also one thing that we want to have is we want to, as you see right now, the text is like in the top left corner, but we want to have it quite centered. So I will center it with flexbox. So display flex direction will be column because it changes the direction by default. So we want them to be underneath each other, and then the justifies content will be centered. The line items will be centered too, and if I'm not mistaken, it's having I think there's an H1 and an H3. Yes. So I want to style those with the color. Actually, I can just write color white because all my text should be white here in the hero element. If you look at it now, okay, so now it looks better to me. Maybe this should be bigger and there should be some space between the two. So the H1 can be maybe, let's say, font size of 22. And the H, it should also have a margin bottom of 15 pixels, maybe. Let's look at it now. Okay, this was not good at all. Maybe 32. I'm just guessing my way to something that's good, maybe 42. I think this will do it. Okay, so this is good enough for me. I think that H3 should be a font size of 20 pixels. I don't know if it will become bigger. Okay, a slight difference. Okay, I think this is good enough. Let's move on with the content which is underneath it. So right here, they're printing out the latest articles, I think. And we also want to have it footer. We can fix that later on. But for now, let's focus on printing out the latest articles. So I want to have the latest 2 articles, I think. No, maybe 3. So how do we achieve this? So one thing that we have to do is we have to actually fetch the latest articles in our homepage. And if you look at this right now, we're not fetching any markdown files. We're just fetching the metadata about the site. So we need to extend this query with fetching from the markdown files. So right here at the top, I will add the all markdown remark like this. And this is how we fetch markdown data. So we want to have the nodes, and we also want to have the exert, no, not expert, exert like this, ID, fields, and inside of the fields object we want to have the slug because that will point to the actual link to the URL, and we want to have the font matter, which has the author, the date, and the title, and I will format the date later on. But right now, what this does, it will basically print out all the articles, and we don't want that. So we want to limit it to 2 for now, and we also want to sort it by the date. And the way we do it is by adding fields and font matter and 3 underscores date. And we also want to order it by the descending order, so to say. Let's see if this works. So I want to print out the data. I want to log it out. So right here, I will say log data, just to see the data object, and I'll open the console like this, and here we see that we have 2 articles. Basically, we have 2 nodes, and they're pointing to the latest ones. So this is exactly what we want. So we see that we have the third and the second post, And as you know, I have 3 blogs, so the first, second, and the third, and these 2 are the ones that are printed. So the latest is the first one, and then the second one comes after it. So this is exactly what we want. I just need to print this out in a simple manner too. So if we go to we're right in the index file right now. So one thing I can do is I can add a container which will wrap the articles. So it will be, I can just have a div and I will add styles.latest articles like this, and I will have an h1 which says latest articles, and underneath it I want to print out the actual files. So one way to handle this is to simply say data.allmarkdown.remark.nodes.map, and this will be the markdown file. So right now we're in this loop and we want to return JSX, but before it we want to do some destructuring. So we know that we need the slug because that will contain the URL to the file, and we get that from the file.fields. But this is the object that contains this property. And we also want to have the front matter. So we don't want to do some destructuring from the front matter like this. And the properties that we are interested in is, I want to have the author, and I also want to have the title. But one thing that you may notice is that this is already a variable, so it will probably conflict with it. So I want to map it to post title. And I also want to have the date, and I want to have the featured image, which will which is a concept I haven't talked about yet, but I know that I want to have a featured image because most blogs usually have images. Yeah, basically every blog post has an image. That's like a common thing to have, and we need to have the URL to that image. So right now I want to just write out to JSX, so it's a link, because the entire thing should be clickable and point to the actual link. So I want to have an image with the styles featured image like this, and it should point to that URL, and I will talk about how we can fetch that URL. We need to install some packages for that, and also I want to have the post title, which is the mapped title as I mentioned before, and underneath it I just want to type posted by author on date. So this should do it. So now if you go to the actual page, it takes some time, and it will of course yell at us because it says that we don't have a public URL at the moment. So this brings us to another important topic, which is how can we point to featured images, or actually, to make it more clear, how can we actually read image URLs from this folder, so to say the directory folder. Before I get into that, I want to grab an image because we want to have something to work with too. So let me just go to Unsplash, and let me just get any image really. So code, typically just write code, and I get the first one that looks decent to me. So I like this one. I just hope it's not too small, but yeah, we'll see. So I will basically rename it to the third post. I will actually just throw it inside right here. So right here. So this is now the image. It looks like this. And we want to point to it in our markdown files. So in every markdown file, we need to have the featured image, and it should point to the image. And the question now is, how do we actually point to it? So based on how we configured the Gatsby, we need to actually point to it from the page folder, so to say. So we're basically imagining that we're in the pages folder right here, and we want to navigate to the images. So I'll just write dot images third post .jpg like this. And I also need to install a couple of packages. So I will do this by shutting down the dev server and opening a new terminal. And here I want to install a bunch of packages. So npm I Gatsby image, Gatsby transformer sharp, and also Gatsby plugin sharp. So now the packages are installed, and one thing I need to do is that I need to run the dev server again. Now the server is running, so I want to go to the GraphQL tool, which I talked about before, the GraphQL like this, and I want to see if I can get the actual public URL. So right now we have the front matter right here, and we have the featured image, and we also have the relative path, as you see here, and we have the public URL. So let me just run it, and we see right now we have null, and I just need to check and make sure that okay, so this makes sense, because right now the only file that has the featured image is this one. So I'll add the same image to all three markdown files like this. Now I'll run it, and I will go back to this tool, and now we see that we have a real URL basically, and this is important for us because we need to point to this in order to get the images. So let's go back to the index.js, and now you actually want to fetch this from the GraphQL query. So I'll type featured image, and we want the public URL property on that. And if I save it, I hope that we are still logging the data object. Yes, we are. And now if I go back to the one thing we should see is that it actually prints it out, because this was what I added, and this was what Gatsby was yelling about before. It said it didn't have the public URL, but now it does. So this is actually a very good improvement. But as you can see, it looks really bad because the images are really big, and actually you shouldn't have these big images. But for now, I guess it works. So I'll probably replace it with a smaller image later on. But for now, let's work on the style, because this does not look good at the moment. So let me go to Visual Studio Code and open up the CSS file. And if we look at the actual markup, we see that we have the image, and we have an H2, and we have a P. So, and we also have the link, of course. So let's work on that right now, on styling it. So one thing I want to have is I want to style the image, because that's the thing that's annoying me right now. So I have a featured image class, and I'll set it to the width of 100 and the height of 30 VH and the object fit of cover. And I also need to add the latest article, of course. So the latest articles like this, and I want the width of this to be 50%, and the max width should be, let's just keep it at this for now, and the margin should be auto. Let's see how this looks, what this looks like. So it basically came much better. So now we just have to work on some of the margin and stuff like that. So I want to have some margin above it and underneath it. So I'll add margin top to be 10 VH, which is view height, and margin bottom to be the same. Let's go back. So now we have some margin to the top and underneath it, which is quite dope. And if we look at the actual index, one thing that I am not really happy with is that everything has the link behavior. So you see that it has this text decoration and also it has the actual color. So I will remove that default behavior. So right here, the A should have the text decoration of none, and also we will inherit the color like this. And I also want to have some margin for the H2, which is a small margin, and also a margin for the P, which is the actual text, which is the posted by text. So let's look at it now. Now it looks much better. But one thing I'm not happy with is the actual date. I'm not really happy with. So I want to format the date in a better way. So I will go to the GraphQL query again and add a format string property to it. So right here, I will add format string and set it to this, and this will be the day and the year, like this. And if you go back, we see that now it gives us the day and the month and the date and the year. So I like this much more. And if I click on it, it brings me to the actual blog post. So I'm really happy with this. I think it looks quite neat. Of course, we can always improve the blog, but I think this looks very good. So I'm happy with it. And one thing we can add to is the footer. If we look at the actual blog, we see that it has these lines and it has this small footer at the bottom. I don't know if I want to add this right now, or I can just have a light gray footer like this at the bottom, just like the footer, just like the nav bar. So let me just add that quickly. So I will add a new component. So footer, it will be a folder, and in the folder I will have a JS file with a functional component, and I will import my styles from footer.module.scss, and I also need to create that file, so footer.module.scss, and there will be a footer with the width of 100%. The background color should be maybe, do we have dark group? Okay, maybe dark gray is good enough. Maybe I'll just have my own like 444, and the color can be white. I think I want to have center everything. So with display flex, justify content center, align items center like this, and maybe the flex direction too. And I will add the class name, styles, footer. I think that I want to have the height to be about 20 VH, and I will say P created by old 2021. And hopefully we'll see the footer. We don't see it, of course, because it's not included in the layout component yet. So I'll go to the layout and I will import the footer from footer like this. And I will add it here. So footer like that. Hopefully we'll see it now. And we do. So this looks good. I also want to work with the blog post itself, because right now it doesn't have the nav bar, it doesn't look pretty. So let's focus on that for now. So let's open the templates, the blog post. And one thing you notice is that we don't use the layout at all. So I will use the layout, and I will import the layout from, let's see where it is. I think it's in the components folder like that. And now we see that we can get the actual navbar and the footer. We're not done yet because we want to calculate, or actually we want to have a min height. So we want to have a div right here, class name styles.blog post, I think. Right here. And I need to add this file too from blog post.module.scss. I will create a file, blog post.module.scss, and the blog post, the min height should be, so now we have to do some calculation. I have to take the total height and remove the actual the nav bar, which is 90 pixels, and the footer. Hopefully this is a correct calculation. I really hope it is, and it actually is. So that looks great. And I also want to have some padding. So padding of maybe 30 pixels. And that looks good. And I also want to remove the actual link because it's not necessary anymore. And one thing I noticed is that I want this to be clickable. It should point to the, I guess, to the home page. So let's fix that too. So in the nav bar, I want to make this a link. So link to the home page. Yes, and we also got the default link behavior. Actually, I think I want to remove that behavior globally because I'm noticing that it appears everywhere. So in the layout.css, I'll have, so the A text decoration should be none, and the color should be inherits. like that. Yes, it removed it, and it brings me back to the home page, which is good. So one last thing I need is that I need to add the featured image to the individual blog posts too. So in the templates folder, I need to grab the featured image, just as I did before. So public URL. I think this will work. I'm not sure though. So let's just log out the data. And I think I want to remove it from the index.js because I remember that I added it here and I don't want to log it out anymore. So if I open the console again, hopefully I will get it. I think it's here, right? Yeah, no, I think this is the old one. So let me just reload this. Okay, so I think something is wrong at the moment. I want to close this. I want to go to my blog post. Okay, I didn't save the file, which is a common thing to do. And now we can see it. Okay, so the front matter, it actually has the image. This is awesome. And now we can work with that. So I will basically add an image, or actually I can do some destructuring here too. So I follow the conventions. So I want to have the title just as before. The title and the date and the author from post.frontmatter and const HTML from like this post.html, and I can remove these now. I can also remove this, hopefully. Yes, let's just sanity check this. Nothing has broken yet. Okay, I didn't get the actual HTML anymore, so this was interesting. Of course, it's not post.html, it's post. Stupid of me. So now, hopefully we'll see it. Yes, we do. And this is how it looks like. So this is the actual content of the blog post. And now I can also bring the featured image. So featured image, and I know that it has the public URL, which is what I'm concerned with. Like this image, and it should point to the public URL. I think I need to have an alt too, so I'll say blog post featured image. Let's look at it. Okay, so now here we get it, and I need to add the class so I can fix the width of it. So styles.featured image, and I'll go to the blog post and I will add that here. So featured image, the width should be 100%, the height should probably be around 30 or maybe 40 VH, and I need to have the position to be center and the size to be covered, right? Like that. I think I have to save both files. Yeah, okay. So let me just look at this right now. So center and contain maybe. Okay. So probably the image might be small. I don't know if it is. Let me just look at it one more time. Okay, so obviously this is not a background. This is an image. So we need to have the object fit cover. I always forget this. Hopefully this will fix it. Yeah, okay. Somehow it fixes it, but maybe the best thing is to have it as a background. I think that's a better way to solve it. But yeah, for now, I think this is good. And I'll fix the problem with the image later on, but now at least it looks much neater, and it looks like actually this one too. It doesn't have the layout, so I'll apply it here too. So let's go to the blog and import the layout. Import layout from components. No, I think I can do it like this. No, like that. Components layout, and I want to have the layout right here. That. Let's see if this fixes it. Yes, it does. And the same thing goes here. So I need to fix the problem with the height. So class name blog styles dot blog posts, and right here I will create a file for it. So blog.module.scss, blog list, maybe blog list, and import styles from blog list.module.scss, and I want to have this class. So like that. I have to do the same calculation as I did with the blog post. I'll just grab it here. I'll just grab the actual, and I'll just, hopefully it works. Okay, we're getting some issues right here. But at least it's working, and that's good for me at the moment. One last thing before I end this video is that I want to have what I said before, the 404 page. So I want to have my own custom 404 page. So I will, in the pages folder, I will add a 404.js, which will be an RFC like that. And it shouldn't be 404, it should be our page like that. Maybe our 404 page like that. And here I want to import the layout from the components folder, the layout right there, and like this. And I will have a div with the class name styles dot page, and I will have an h1 which says, oh no, this page could not be found. And I will have an emoji with the row. I think it will let me, so I'll just add an emoji right now, like that. And I need to import the styles from our page.module.scss, and the for page will be right here. So a new file, our page.module.scss, where the error page should basically be the same as the other ones. I'll just grab it from my clipboard like that. page, and if you now click on the, okay, so right now it doesn't detect it. I hope I saved all my pages. So like that, I click on about me. It didn't really detect the file. Maybe I have to reload. Okay, so right now it detected it. So this worked. And this is the actual page that we get. But now one thing you notice is that when we actually navigate to the URL, we don't get the page right away, the custom 404 page. And that's just the way the Gatsby server works. So it doesn't give you that because it will always override the custom 404 page with its own. But once you create a production build and deploy it, it will actually show this page. So this looks good to me, and I'm quite happy with how it looks right now. As you may notice, the images are quite big, and that's something I have to handle later on. Also, I have the issue with this not being showed properly. But yeah, I think this is a good start, and I can work with this in the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching, guys.